Welcome to my video on building credit, some new primaries, secured credit cards, and some primaries, and going over some review, and funding rules, the maximum funding ratio and the DTI ratio. How you're going to build your credit and get the maximum funding out of your credit. Now, you want to refer to my last video on the primaries for some extra primaries, but in this video, I'm going to give you some new things to add to your credit profile as well. So, before we get into the video, let me talk to you about corporate credit. Everybody on the internet has all these ways to destroy a corporation, destroy the credit, and get small baby credit cards and small baby credit and do everything that's going to make the corporation, on top of it, the ones you buy are stolen or they've been dissolved millions of times, and you're just wasting your time and money, because that is not what equates to getting big funding and getting big money on a corporate credit. So it's actually best to do nothing with it instead of messing it up. Now, for the people that listen, which is the ones that are successful and make the most money and get the richest in the world, they listen, they learn, and they actually apply what they learn, and you follow this path, you will get lots of money. My corporations literally get $1 to $3 million first round. I'm not even joking. You have to qualify. You got to prove to me you can make the payments and all this kind of stuff, and I will line everything up and get it done and get you into the funding. But everything starts with personal credit. So let's talk about that. So now that we've gone over corporate credit, I'm going to give you some little general advice here. When you are setting up your primaries and you're setting up any type of credit card or whatever, or anything building your credit, you want to put it on auto pay. And if you're buying an auto or you're buying a house, no matter what, you're going to have like no payment for 2 months. Everybody waits until the very last 2 months and they don't make any payments, which is really stupid, because you're dealing with your house and your auto or motorcycle, and these are the most important things to build your credit. So you want to pay and set it up on auto pay like week 1. Some places you can't do it till a month, but 99%, most of them, you can start paying ahead of time, like the first week, and be ahead 2 months on your mortgage and on your auto. So this will eliminate all these people out there that always get late on their mortgage. They always get late on their car, and it's stuck there, and you can't get any funding for 12 to 24 months because you got a late on the biggest item on your credit. And when you have a 30-day late within 12 months, it is worse than a bankruptcy. It is worse than anything possible on any lien or anything on a credit report, because one 30-day late within 12 months is the sign of the tipping of the iceberg to pyramiding debt. So every lender will not touch a file with 30-day late within 6 months to 12 months. Point blank, guaranteed, never. So that is the most biggest mistake you can do. So that's why you want to do auto pay right away, and you prevent all the 30-day lates. And you want to put auto pay on every single thing you have. That'll eliminate huge problems and keep your credit in perfect condition and ability to get tons of money. Now, when you go to other so-called funders, or you try and fund on your own, and lenders see that you have declines, it gives them the view, underwriters, they see it as you're desperate, and it's a sign that you're going to default and you're going to be late. So when they look at your file and you've got too many inquiries of declines, it tells them you're not smart and you're a bad risk to lend money on. So when you do that, and these other funders, they go mass shotgun your file, and you get all these inquiries all over the place, and then you go back and say, oh, I'll remove it. Well, you can remove it, you get an extended file alert, and then you end up going back to these other idiots on the internet, and then they go back to the same place, and you get a double decline or whatever. But the problem is, when you went to the same place, all these places you got to do turn downs, as I've mentioned before, you've done everything wrong, and you're in the system. So once you're in the system wrong, no matter if you go back 6 months, a year, 2 years, They got the information from the original wrong. It's still there, so you can't fix anything. So now that we've gone over a couple key things, now I'm going to get into how to build your file a little more and add some new primaries that you can put on your file. And this video, mainly, we're going to go over secured credit cards. Secured credit cards tie up a lot of cash, but allow us to build your file because you're making payments. And like I've said on all my other videos, the minimum anything you're going to do is $5,000 above. I mean, you might have one thing at like $2,500. Anything less than that, you're going to get rid of it and not do it. Now, when you do the utility reporting and stuff, or rent reporting, and yes, maybe it's less than $5,000 or whatever, those don't matter because you can remove them and take them off within a month, and they're not stuck there. But if you're talking like primaries or authorized users or anything less than $5,000, those are stuck on there until you remove them, or it's closed by guarantor and it jacks up your file. So that is the key rule, $5,000 minimum, period. So when we're talking about secured credit cards, it is a good way to build up your file as long as it's $5,000 or above, okay? Remember that. Like I said, but if you need a boost in your credit score, you can do maybe one thing at like $2,500 or something. Now, the problem is with secured credit cards, everybody on the internet goes, all these YouTube videos of all these people that don't even know what they're talking about, don't even have any money and never got 100,000 in their life, let alone a million. They don't tell you the rest of the story about how things fit together. Now, they fit together is that when you have these secured credit cards, you assume that the timeline is going to allow you to get the actual approval for an unsecured credit card. But when you do that, there is no timeline. And when you do the timeline, you've already took the step into the secured credit card realm, which diminishes your ability to show that you are high value credit seeking individual. When you step into this realm, yes, it builds your credit, but you have to abide by the rules of funding and underwriting that nobody even knows about or talks about. When you have done this step, it's, well, deteriorating your ability to get real funding. So what you might think is, well, I've had a secured credit card for 6 months or a year, I'm going to go apply for an unsecured with that institution because I'm so good. Well, it doesn't work like that. It actually works in the opposite direction. So every time, you're not going to believe me, you can try this on your own and come back to me and say, oh, I should have listened because I've seen this a million times. If you have 4 years, 6 months, whatever, then you go on your own and think, oh, I'm going to go apply for it. Your maximum funding ratio is meaning getting the maximum credit limit. If the credit card they have available after you have a secured limit of $10,000, even like 5 times, you've done it 5 times and you paid it off 5 times, you think, oh, I can get a $25,000 credit card. Well, every time it comes back at like $15,000, $18,000, but I've never seen one client come to me and actually got $25,000 doing it this method. That's why you want to hire me. When you hire me to go funding, I mean, try this on their own and prove to yourself that I'm already telling you ahead of time and learn the hard way. Doesn't matter. But you will know. You're just going to ruin your file. If you don't hit the maximum level every single time, your file can't go from level 1 to 2 to 3, 3 rounds, and then get the maximum money every single round. And then when you're in corporate credit, you can get 1 to 3 million round 1. That's why nobody on the internet can even say they get 1 to 3 million. They can barely even get 100,000 because they can't do that right. Nobody has proof of none of this stuff but me. I'm the only one that's been around this business and doing this long enough, longer than anybody, with the same phone number, same everything. And it is because I have a method, a strategy, and it's proven, and I've done it so many times that I know what works and what doesn't work. And this is what works. So there's a way to get maximum funding ratio at every lender, every place you go, and go from one tier to the next tier to the next tier on the personal, and then go to corporate. Don't listen to anybody about the corporate credit stuff, about tier 1, tier 2. Every single thing they tell you about corporate credit is wrong because they don't know what funding is. They know how to jack up your money and sell you no PG this, no PG that. Well, reality is corporate credit has to be PG to get the maximum amount of money. And if you have like 50 corporations and you default on one, you still got 49 good ones. That's how it's done. No normal, successful corporate person that makes a lot of money and gets a lot of funding ever does NOPG. That's just some stupid stuff to sell you stupid trade lines or a stolen corporation, or to sell you a corporation minute one when you got bad credit, and for them to take advantage of you because they don't know better, or they actually know better and they're just trying to get extra money. If you buy a corporation, you have extra cash, and you have bad credit, yes, it's a good investment. I can get you on the right path without it, and I can get you funding and then get it. Or, I mean, if you had extra cash, you know, there's certain circumstances, certain things that can benefit you for the long term, but it's none of the stuff that what these guys are telling you. Just so you know. Okay, so now let's get into some of the secured credit cards. First, we have Navy Federal, which is good in a way because their secured credit card maximum is $5,000. Yes, Navy Federal is a good institution in a way if you use it for personal stuff, but I wouldn't use it for your main business source or big money. Once you get big money, they're going to freeze accounts or ask questions. It's hard to do transfers. I have a lot of questions about anything over like large amounts. Commercial real estate, or you're getting like big money at $100,000 plus, $500,000, $1 million, you might as well forget it, because credit union is going to flip out. They're going to freeze your account. You're going to have to go through all this paperwork, and it could be a week to months. And by the same token, when I'm talking about this as well, a lot of you guys go out there and do corporate credit bank accounts that are online bank accounts or personal bank accounts that are online. And those online bank accounts without a branch are actually like traps to catch people's money. So you might want to know this. If you put anything like $50,000 and above on any online account, their goal is to give you so much trouble to where they steal the money. That happens. I've seen that so many times. Don't do it. You want to learn the hard way? I guarantee you'll learn the hard way, because online bank accounts with no walk-in office, no branch, has stolen so many people I know's money. It's ridiculous. I mean, I could tell you story after story. I know one guy, it literally took him 3 years to get it, and a lot of people have never got their money back on larger amounts, you know, 50,000 above, you know, 500,000, a million here and there. Those online accounts cannot handle it. They're not set up for it. So if you're dealing with any money, like once you hire me to get funding, or you want to get commercial real estate, the first thing you got to do, if I tell this to my clients, but if I haven't told you that, you're going to have to get like Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, or a major bank. Okay? So, now, back to the secured credit cards. $5,000, Navy Federal is pretty good because you can borrow against it and use that money for a car loan. So you have two loans out of one, and Navy Federal is pretty good for a car. $5,000 is okay. It's not very big, but it gets you a secured primary on your credit. Like I said, you can do that 2 or 3 times, pay it off and everything with Navy Federal, but you can learn the hard way and go straight into it and try and apply for the $25,000 credit card and not get the maximum funding ratio, like I said, or you can hire me, and then I'll tell you the next steps and how to go about getting the maximum funding ratio on every single round and every single item to keep building to the next level. If you can never go to the next level, it keeps going backwards and you never get the big money. Okay, so the next secured credit card, which we're going to talk about, is so Navy Federal secured credit card is good for building up your file. If you have $5,000 or more, put it in there for 3 months payments, then it's going to boost up your file really good, or keep repeating it. The next one is Digital Federal Credit Union, and their maximum will go up to $100,000. So if you got bad credit and you hire me for credit repair and you have extra cash and you want to really build up your file, as I said in the previous videos, you got to get auto, primaries, your utilities reporting, and you know, have 4 or 5 open things. So one of them can be, if you have enough cash, you might spread it out between, you know, 2 or 3 secured cards. But Digital Federal Credit Union will be like if you want to do a $10,000, $20,000, or however much extra cash and build up your file. Now, if you got that kind of cash, you probably definitely want to make sure you get a car, because you can get a car for like, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 with probably not much money down or no money down if your score is at least kind of decent. If your score is kind of terrible, you got a little down payment, but that is a giant credit builder. So if you get a car or 2 cars or a car and a motorcycle, that builds your file. If you got extra cash, I'm going to give you some other secured credit cards. Digital Federal Credit Union is a good one for the secured card. Just make sure that once you do that, you don't go assuming that you can go get their maximum credit limit on their credit cards and the other things, because when you do this step, it does help your credit, but you're already damaging your credit file into like doing a toxic loan. Basically, it's just like a business loan. There's a daily pay. It's a toxic loan. Lenders will not let you out of it until you put up a secured house to get out of it, to get into the unsecured realm. So these are easy to get, but they're kind of harder to get out of. So if you want to get out of it, that's when you got to come to me. So the next one will be State Department Federal Credit Union. It's up to 100,000. So if you have like 10,000, 5,000 more or whatever, these are large, nice, secured credit cards. Build up your file super quick with a car and the primaries, and then you go right from there. And we could do maybe 2 rounds and go straight into corporate credit, maybe 3, depends. But if you do it right and you really build it up and have extra cash, we can kind of fast forward things into the corporate credit. So State Department Federal Credit Union is up to 100,000 secured. The next one is Platinum Secured MasterCard. It's 25,000. It's not as big, but it works. So if you have 25,000, you got extra money, cash run around. That's good for 3 months payments. 4, get your credit around. After 3 months, we're able to get funding. Then you got all cash. You can take that cash out. Then we start building a file. These are just good options. The next one, Bank of America is 12,000. That's pretty good. Same thing as the others. And then what you have left is basically U.S. Bank for 5,000, Applied Bank for 5,000, Andrews Air Force Credit Union 5,000, Bank of America 4,900. The most popular ones are probably Capital One and Discover, because there's 3,000 and 2,500. Discover and Capital One kind of has a lot of complaints, I guess, because I don't know, customer service and all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't really matter. It's just follow the principles. I don't go over the rate and the terms of these loans because it doesn't matter. If you got terrible rates, even if no matter what you did, but you still got the maximum amounts, even 1 to 3 rounds, the rate doesn't matter, because even if you got terrible rate on your car or whatever, or a house or whatever, I'm not talking about adding a house in the beginning though. I'm just saying, once we got to corporate credit, you're talking the best rates in the world, like 5% for like 5, 10, 20-year terms. And you're talking $1 million your first round, which we could actually go more. And then as you make 3 months payments, and you're talking about $1 million lines of credit, and then we make more payments on that, you set up, then you're talking about $10 million lines of credit, and it goes on and on. And that is the one single biggest factor in the world that changes a normal millionaire person to a billionaire. Is that corporate credit, the way I do it, and the strategy, and the build on the personal. But other people never get there because they can never get the personal build. And everything on corporate credit matters about your personal, which I'll get into more later. These are just the cards. Discover, DCU, Navy Federal, and then there's the Platinum MasterCard and your Applied Bank. Okay, so on my other primaries video, I go over a lot of primaries, but here are some that I left off. One that I did leave off is Intrigue Fine Jewelry. It's $10,000, and that doesn't go off of your credit. You just have to find an item you want to buy, pay 20% down and a $150 membership fee, and you'll get a $10,000 line of a credit. That's a good primary. That's just another option. Then some other loans. If you are wanting to buy furniture, Ashley Furniture will go up to 60 months. It can go from like $2,500 to probably, you probably push it to $15,000, but at least $10,000. Same with Ethan Allen, 36 months. So if you were building your credit and you did need furniture and that kind of stuff, that would be another option to add and build to your file. Wayfair and Big Lots, just want to make sure you can get $2,500 on them. It's soft pull, so that's easy. See what it comes out. If you don't like what it is, call them up, ask for the reconsideration, all that kind of stuff. That's that. And these are supplements to go with the previous video of primaries. Grow Credit is another utility reporting service, except it'll go more to reporting things like Netflix, Hulu, and all these other things. It's good that it's small and reports, because these are in control and you can remove them at will. That's why the small one like that will work. But anything else other than that can't be removed, turned on and off, those are bad, so they have to be at least 5,000 or more. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the autos and the motorcycles or any other like toys or whatever, like power sports type stuff, like jet skis, boats, RVs. Boats and RVs build up your file. Of course, you would rent them out and rent out your Sea-Doos and all that kind of stuff, or whatever you have. That's just credit builders if you want to do that. Like in the past videos, you want to look at that to add some other things. The good ones were Shop Simplio, Credit Strong, Tomo, Extra, etc. The rental places, the credit bureaus, and the autos and motorcycles. So that's that. Now that you have the secured credit cards and some of the primaries, the new primaries to add, well, Intrigue Fine Jewelry. If you have any other ones that I'm missing between the other two videos, just put it in the comments or whatever you want to comment about those. If you know something or new things that come up around adding or building your credit, add that in the comments. Now, the maximum funding ratio, let's go over that so everybody understands why it's so important. I'm going to go over all this stuff, but you probably want to hire me to build it out, because it'd be a lot easier for you and be worth your while and be a good investment. So there's 5 maximum funding ratios that compensate or add up to a file. One is like, what's the ratio of high limits that you have? If you have all high limits, what's the ratio of small loans, small credit limits to high limits? Because if it's that determines like the ratio. If you have several $500 credit cards and then you got some at $4,000 or $5,000, what's the ratio? Okay, the whole trick on this is to get 100% ratio on all these, to where you can go from one level to the next. And this is everything that I do and know when I do funding, and I structure it to where it maxes out every single angle so it can go from the next level. Now, when you have the $500 credit cards versus $5,000, you have a ratio that's like half and half. When it does get to the business funding, we have to either remove it, or even at the point where it is now and other lenders look at it, they say this guy's priorities are bad, he cannot pay back credit, he shows poor decisions, he lacks higher thought skills, and he has lack of money and business and personal management skills. Because why would a guy get $500 stuff and then you have $5,000? So all these approvals, when you're going for funding, are computer generated models that pick up on all these things and gives you declines or half funding ratios. Okay, so the next one is, what is the total approvable limit amount? So if you have the maximum amount every single time, you're able to go next level. But if you got a bunch of stuff at like 10,000 versus 20,000, that shows you're desperate and you're high risk because you're not getting the maximum amount. And they see that and they know that, and that's what's triggering them to repeat the cycle. Because if they see that you're a risk, you're not going to get to the next level where you're not a risk, because getting credit is the appearance of not needing credit but having every single thing they want. So now you have the ratio of revolving credit cards to amount of loans. If you have too many credit cards, the guy has too much consumer credit and not enough loans, it's a decline. Or you have too new of credit or too recent of consumer credit, you have too many new credit cards versus old loans, or too many new loans versus old credit cards. It's a ratio that has to be kept in line. And then last is the inquiries. If a lender, a computer model, sees that you have inquiries on your file, which is declines, says you're going to go into default and you're going to be late and you're desperate when they see them. Now, when a lender sees that you have no credit inquiries, they're jealous and they want to give you more money. So, I mean, that's just that. When you get declines and you have a perfect file and you get a decline after you have all this stuff in your benefit and you just stepped over the line and got a decline, that is where you're really destroying your file, and it shows you're messing up. And like I said earlier, when you remove the inquiry, you're going to trigger the fraud alert. So you remove the fraud alert, but then there's extended fraud alert, which people have to say, like in my earlier video, you have to mention that, or it goes unnoticed, and then you get declines from then on. So you have to remove fraud alerts twice. And then if you go to like another funder and they don't know what was removed, they end up going back to the same place. You're destroying your file even more. The DTI ratios. So basically all the maximum funding ratios, like every single angle, all these have to be fulfilled and get maximized each time they go to the next level. The DTI ratio is like between credit cards, how much credit balance to credit limit on each credit card and each loan and each line, and then how much loans to credit cards and how much lines to credit cards, the ratio of each of those. So when you do this, you have to have everything done in the right sequence. Now, a lot of trade line suppliers and sellers say, well, you got to transition up and all this stuff. No, you can actually buy a bunch of older ones and large ones. You don't have to look and transition it. That's not what the model is going for an approval. It doesn't really matter. If you have a good file and you're like a 600 file and you have like, or a 650 or 680 credit score, or like a 700 credit score with the auto and a mortgage and stuff, and then you listen to somebody's bad advice and you get a bunch of things that don't mess up your file, I mean things that don't fit your file, it just makes it go backwards. So if you have a mortgage and an auto and they're really good pay, but the rest, and you need a credit boost, you should call me and get a specific plan, because this plan works for people with really a weak file or nothing on it. But when you have things on it that are positive, like a good paying auto, but mainly a good paying mortgage. An auto, you could probably go with the plan, but if you have a good paying mortgage and an auto, you need to call me, and well, you would want to call me and have me do a specific plan for you that is going to utilize larger limits than your average build. This is kind of small stuff for people with no mortgage. So it's a different story when you do have a mortgage. Now that we're talking about mortgages, a lot of people are bankers and everything going to talk you into or want to get you into mortgage credit lines or refinances, or you're thinking about buying mortgages and stuff. But when you do that, just know for a fact, it used to be a year. You can't get any personal funding nowadays. If you have a mortgage, you're really not getting any funding personally wise, at least till a year and a half to 3 years out. And that means you're killing your personal and you're killing your corporate credit. So when you're dealing with mortgages, you got to have a real plan and method and time frame and timeline of how you want to manage and get your personal funding and corporate funding. Normally you want to get all that stuff ahead of time before you go buying houses, because it's going to torch your file. Now, there's ways to do it if you want to build it up and get the credit line for the business and get all the money to buy houses and stuff. But if you're buying single family houses or 1 to 4 unit or this baby stuff, and you're not in commercial real estate, you're really buying yourself a job, because those flipping houses at that small level, and you're dealing within less than $1 million range, you're not making enough money to compensate. I mean, you're just buying yourself a job. And that's why a lot of people in that small range flipping single families or 2 units or whatever, maybe 3 units, over 5 years, they're not really ever succeeding. They're more like just buying a job and kind of going broke. Okay? So I thought I'd point that out. Now, that's pretty much everything. Corporate credit, I mean, I would, if you're making a plan, you want to get into corporate credit, you want to get with me ahead of time so you don't do anything that messes it up, and we strategize it and plan it and set the timeline and do everything in the right manner, so when it does go into the corporate credit funding realm, you can get the maximum money. And that means not buying a stolen corp, not one that's being dissolved, and that means one that's set up, that is done right and everything, that can even go public, or it can go into getting the absolute most money, like 1 to 3 million round one. Nobody does that because they are clueless and they tell you the wrong stuff. So, trying to build up your file, check out my primaries video for other primaries and the ones I mentioned in this video. If you want to get in commercial real estate, for apartments, motels, hotels, and all these things, and you hire me for commercial real estate, I will do personal funding or credit repair if you get the commercial real estate and you are able to do that right away at the same time. But if you get commercial real estate and you want to do credit repair or personal funding later, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, then it's a separate fee. But if you're doing that, I will do that at the same time. You don't need credit repair to get into commercial real estate funding, but I will do it right away as just a benefit for you and help you out, or funding to help you out if you do the commercial real estate. So that's it for this video. I hope it helps you get your credit built up. You have any questions, or you want to get credit repair funding or commercial real estate as well,
power, realize your power, finding out myself, power, realize your power, finding out myself. Go where you wanna go, do what you're gonna do what you wanna do, go where you wanna go. Get on with it, come on, get on with it, come on, get on with it, come on, get on with it. It's what I say, what I say. Listen what I say, listen what I say, listen what I say, what I say. Get on with it, come on, get on with it. I go left, I go right, lift it up, dance all night. I go left, I go right, lift it up, dance all night. I go left, I go right, lift it up, dance all night. I go left, I go right. Baby, you're gonna be mine. Baby, you looking so fine. Baby, you gonna be mine. Baby, you looking so fine. Baby, you're gonna be mine. Baby, you looking so fine. Baby, you gonna be mine. Baby, you looking so fine. I go left, you go right. Live it up, dance all night. I go left, you go right. Live it up, dance all night. I go left, you go right. Live it up, dance all night. I go left, you go right. Live it up, dance all night. Get on top now. Get on top. Get on down. Get on down, yeah.
Power. Realize your power. Finding out myself. Finding out myself.
I go left, you go right. Live it up, dance all night. I go left, you go right. Dance all night. I go left, you go right. Live it up, dance all night. I go left, you go right. Live it up, dance all night. I go left, you go right. Live it up, dance all night. I go left, you go right. Live it up, dance all night. I go left, you go right. Live it up, dance all night. I go left, you go right. Live it up, dance all night.
Power. Realize your power. Finding out myself. Finding out myself. Power. Realize your